What happens when you practice Qin and Qigong for 8 hours, 24 days in a row? When Citlali Alvarez heard that this was what students did at the famous medicineless hospital, she decided to become her own experiment. Being a researcher by profession, she took meticulous notes of what happened to her body, mind, and emotion during this intense time of practice. Follow her on her path and get inspired to do what it takes to facilitate your very own healing. My name is Thorsten Lüdecke, and this is the Wisdom Qigong podcast. Citlali, you wanted to start by sharing a story with us. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me, Thorsten. Hello, everybody. Well, I will tell you the way I decided to practice Qin and Qigong. I had a younger sister that she passed away because acute lymphoblastic leukemia, and that broke my heart. So I thought it should be something else. Chemotherapy is not the solution. So I start to find for different alternative medicine in order to fight cancer in honor to my sister. And before I found Qin and Qigong, I will tell you a little bit about how was my life. Of course, I was really sad. My heart was broken. I cried a lot, and I felt pain of my chest, here in the middle of the chest. And I was feeling like didn't want to get out of my bed or didn't feel like taking a bath. And for me, taking a bath is a pleasure. But at that moment, I was really sad. The only thing that I was able to do was to take my bicycle as a lifeline, because I used to race my bicycle. So I took my bicycle and I started to ride again. And I met one guy. He was my partner cycling. We rode 5 years together and we were boyfriend. He was my boyfriend for 4 years. And one day he had a brain stroke and he passed away during the training. So the pain that I was feeling on my chest started again, but this time with a lot of pressure, like if I were something were pressure me, my chest and my back. So my breathing was like, like signs, I guess you said signs in English. And I stopped enjoying riding my bicycle. So I quit and I got flu. And then like 2 months later, I tried to come back to ride my bicycle and I got sick. And then I wait a little bit more. I try and I got sick. And I wait and I try and I got sick. And I was in my fourth attempt when my father got into the hospital. And as soon as he got into the hospital, he got in a coma state and he passed away. And I got sick. So that was my life when I finally found Qin and Qigong. Good news. So I took my workshop, and when I was in my workshop, I saw a video where practitioners were sending Qi to crops as a scientific research. And I say, hey, I want to do that. And then I learned that the scientific research protocols with practitioners were practicing 8 hours a day per 24 days. And I said, I'm going to do that. And I want to be sure. I want to be my own experiment in order to see if Qin and Qigong really works. And at that moment, I was kind of naive, really innocent, because I didn't know that at the Huasha Center, thousands of practitioners were practicing at the same time, creating a huge, strong, powerful chi field with teacher punk information, right? So practicing at the Huasha Center versus practicing by myself in my apartment was kind of a little bit of different. But anyway, I decided to do it.
Let me just put this into context here, Citlali, because some of our listeners might not know what the Huaxia Center is. It's actually the first medicineless hospital that Dr. Pang founded in the 90s, where thousands of people that had terminal illnesses or illnesses where the Western medicine said there's nothing we can do for you, where people went and got healing, energy healing, basically by Qineng Qigong and Hunyan Shi therapy. And you discovered this center, but obviously from the research arm, because what they also did was they used the qi to help plants grow. And so they gave the plants qi in order to have a better harvest. And that was a famous, experiment they did there. And you thought, well, if they do it for 8 hours a day, 24 days in a row, let me see what happens when I do it in my life, right?
Exactly.
Now, what you discovered later is that there is a difference. If you're doing it with thousands of people together, creating a massive chi field, versus doing it all by yourself at home. But still, as I know, you had amazing successes. So maybe you can continue your story here.
Yes, that's right. So before I continue my story, I will tell you two short cycling stories in order, how come I was able to finish my own experiment. I ride my bicycle for 9 years. I raced my bicycle. When I was in my second year, one coach called me and told me, Citlali, I inviting you to belong to my women's cycling team. And I was really happy. We were 4 cyclists, 2 of them the best cyclists in Mexico. And I was 31 years old and they were 20s, 21, 22. So the difference was important. Anyway, in one training, we were training 100 kilometers. And I was pushing hard in order to keep the pace with my teammates. And when we had ridden 90 kilometers, the coach said, now it's time to go fast. And I said, what? I was really tired. But anyway, my teammates started to increase the pace and we were faster and fast and fast. And then missing 200 meters, the coach said, now it's time to do the sprint. And I say, this is insane. I'm so tired. But my teammates start to do the sprint and I finished after them. My coach came to me and he asked, what happened? Really serious. And I said, honestly, I was empty. My legs didn't respond. And he said, you had done the hardest part. You just have to finish it. He turned around and he left. And I thought, yes, he's right. I have ridden 99.8 kilometers with the best cyclists in Mexico. I just had to push harder, the last part. I call that lesson number 1.
Right.
Some years later, another friend asked, Citlali, do you want to be a good cyclist? And I said, yes, of course. So he said, take your bicycle and ride 8 hours in a row. Don't come back until you finish your training, and you will see the difference. So next year, I took my bicycle and I started to ride my 8 hours. When I was riding 7 hours in a row, I was really tired, physically and mentally. And I say, why and what I'm doing this? This is insane. But then I remember lesson number 1. And I say, come on, Citlali, you have done the hardest part. You just missed 1 hour. Just finish it. And I did it. And when I arrived home, I felt really happy and really proud of myself. So I call that lesson number 2. So it was 2011. There I was trying to do my own experiment in my apartment, practicing 8 hours Chin Chikun. And I was in my 7th hour practicing Chin Chikun, and I was really tired. And I said, why I'm doing this? This is insane. And I remember lesson 1 and lesson 2. And I said, come on, Citlali, you can do it. You already had practiced 7 hours. You just missed 1 hour. You just have to finish it. And I finished. And I was so happy and so proud of myself. So with this kind of mentality, helped me to finish the whole process, the 24 days, practicing in 8 hours a day. And with my scientific spirit, I decided to take a note of every single change that I noticed through my practice. So I will mention some of them. The first day, I felt something between my hands. I said, what is this? I don't see anything between my hands, but I feel something.
My name is Leila Cupido, and I'm the project manager of the Students Hub. Our team is constantly adding events, teachers, videos, and other resources to take your practice to the next level, improving the quality of your life and the life of the people around you. We do this work for you, so please use it. Hunyuan Ling Tong.
Something that doesn't allow to close my hands and sometimes push out my hands. So I took a note. Something is in my hands. I don't see anything, but I can feel it.
Just for clarification, were you practicing La Chi at that moment?
I was practicing La Chi, gathering Chi between my hands.
Who don't know La Chi, it's an easy opening and close movement of the hands. So this is the kind of movement that you do, right?
Yes, and I was feeling the Chi. Then I was practicing organizing the Chi field. It's a meditation where you sit down, you don't move, only do the meditation. And my temperature, my body temperature changed. And say, why is changing, increase, if I'm not doing any movement at all? So I took a note. With my practice, my temperature increased. And I also, with my eyes closed, I saw lights and colors. I said, what is that? So I took a note. I saw lights and colors. Then when I was practicing level 1, they have movements. You move your body in front of the television because I was learning the movements. The volume of my television went down and up, down and up. I finished the practice and I called the person that gave me the CD. And I said, there is something wrong with your CD. And she said, no, there is nothing wrong with the CD. Your television is wrong. And I said, no, my television is perfect. So I get with the conclusion that my television reacts to the Tsen Chikung practice. So I took a note. Then I have one leg shorter than the other, and I always wear insoles in my tennis shoes for correcting that one. And walking barefoot produce a lot of pain on my hip because my unbalance. But I decided to practice barefoot in order ligaments and tendons and muscles stretch more on my feet. So the pain started. And when I finished my 8 hours, my first day, I noticed that the pain disappeared. And I was ready for taking a note. But my narrow framework said, no, Citlali, it cannot be possible. So I didn't take a note and I said, I will wait until next day. So next day I practiced, and of course there were no pain. The pain disappeared since the first day. So I took a note. I was able, after 8 hours practice, to disappear my pain of the hip, but I didn't believe it. Now I learned that I should trust in my practice. Then I was doing wall squats, doing Qianfa. I was doing 100 every single day. And in my eyes, there were a lot of crusting. Like tears, but is crusting, I think so.
I think so. It's dried up tears, kind of, right?
Tears, but not tears. Tears are liquid. The one that
Yes.
is not
Yes.
not liquid.
So this is why you say it's crusty. Yes.
Yeah, something
Yes.
like that.
Mhm. Yes.
So I took a note. When I do wall squat, something is happening with my eyes. And I will do a parenthesis because I'm wearing contact lenses since I was 15 years old, really young. And after like 2 years of practice, I went with the doctor, with the eye doctor, and he told me, Citlali, you reduce 0.5 dioptry on your left side. And then some years later, I took out my contact lenses on my left eye. So this is almost perfect. It's not 20/20, it's like 19/20, but almost perfect. I only working on the right side. I'm still wearing a contact lens.
Right.
So close the parenthesis. Then one day I saw myself in the mirror and I saw a huge light above my head. I said, what is that? It was huge. And I took a note, another parenthesis. When I finished my 8 hours practice during that month, I start to reduce my practice, 6 hours, 4 hours, 2 hours. And then I saw myself on the mirror and the light was shorter. I said, interesting. When I was practicing 8 hours, it was huge. Now that I practice 2 hours, it's shorter. And I took a note. And now we know that if we practice, our chi field get bigger and stronger, right? And then I start, do you remember the pain of my chest that I felt when my sister passed away and my ex-boyfriend passed away? I start to feel that again with my practice. I say, why? It's so weird. And one day I cried a lot. And I realized that I was releasing all the sadness that I had. And I start to feel in peace, happier, stronger, more flexible. And I took every single note of that. And one day I just decided to come back to riding my bicycle again. I was feeling better, physically, mentally, and emotionally, and I did it. I was able to race my bicycle again and to win some races. And the flu, I spent, I guess, 9 years before I get sick again. So my immune system was really strong for so many years through my practice. Finally, I think, well, I was able to be part of one scientific research in a cancer hospital. It was so happy for me because it was in honor to my sister. And then now I'm more aware that what I said, what I think, what I do, is like my level of conscious increase. So these are some of the achievements that I have through my practice, to my Qigong practice.
So let me try to wrap it up because I just want to get the full picture here. So you said to yourself, I'm going to train 8 hours a day for 24 days. And is that what you did? Because you said at one point you reduced the hours, but that was after the
Yeah.
24 days?
Yeah, after.
Okay.
After I finished the whole month with
Perfect.
8 hours, taking all the changes.
Very good. So, and what happened? I mean, you explained some of the phenomenon you encountered during your practice. And you also explained that, you know, that some of the things that you were carrying within you, like the massive pain about the death, you know, of your sister and of your ex-boyfriend, that
Yeah.
this basically, you know, you freed yourself from it. And you did that in a way that we would call a chi reaction. So, you know, initially the pain kind of returned, the physical symptoms returned, but only so they got released. And that is something typical. So, for example, if somebody say they've got an old injury in the shoulder and they start to do Qineng Qigong, they might feel a pain in the shoulder, but this is actually the healing work that is happening there. So
Yes.
for you, it's the same thing. I mean, this massive trauma that you were carrying around, you know, with all these very unfortunate deaths in your family, that kind of dragged you down and brought you in a position where, you know, life wasn't any joy, where you had problems getting up. All of this was released during these 24 days. Is that so?
Yes, exactly. Yes.
And then you continue to practice, which you're still doing till today, and you got into research because you're a researcher by profession as well. That's maybe, you know, why you've got this dedication, and you want to see what's happening, and you want to see the results, and want to see what is the cause and what is the effect. And what you explained about the consciousness, that you are more aware, this is something that came basically more or less like a side effect. It's nothing you had to work on specifically, right? This is something, because of the practice, your awareness grows and your consciousness grows. Is that so? Or was it a specific thing that you had to do in order to get there?
Well, you know, Qigong Qigong practice with your mind, with your emotions, and with your body. I mean, it's complete. So
Yes.
when you are doing any kind of method, all the methods have the same essence, the same objective. And even, for instance, the Qigong Qigong practice unified me. Let me try to explain. When I was trying to ride my bicycle, I was like divided in two. My mind said, "Come on, Citlali, you have to train." But my emotion, my heart said, "I feel so sad. I'm not enjoying riding my bicycle anymore." But through my practice unified me. And that when you are unified, it's so easy that you achieve your goals.
Right.
Your mind in the center, your body center, your emotion center are calm. So the practice, that's the way I can explain how you become more aware, because it's an inside job.
Right. So it is this alignment of your mind, of your body, and your emotions that makes it so strong. And where you no longer have to fight one part of you against another and trying to convince the other part. It's this what you call the
Exactly.
unification within, right?
Yes. Yes, that's right.
Now, I think this is a really, really cool story, Citlali, because now we are often here confronted with people that have some extremely serious illnesses, and they don't know what to do. But they are more often than not, you know, coming to us or to a Qigong teacher and say, you know, please help me, do something with me. While you actually took the initiative and you said, okay, no matter what else is going on in my life, I'm going to go through this routine now, 8 hours a day, 24 days in a row, and see what happens. You had no idea whether it would work. You had no idea what would happen, but you did it. And I can only encourage, you know, people to take that route, in particular if you've got something life-threatening. because
Yeah.
so often we say, oh no, just like when you gave us the great examples of your bike and of your cycling. So often we say, no, it's too long, or I can't do it, or I have to work, or I have to take care of my kids, etc., etc. Rather than prioritizing what is the number one priority at that moment, which is a total recovery of your health. And
Yeah.
the fact that you said, I'm going to do it, and you stick to it, I think is an extremely powerful example that can, hopefully be a motivation to many other and an inspiration to many other to say, well, if Setlali can do it, then I can do it as well. And
Yeah.
yes, so thank you very much for sharing that with us. And you said you later on went into research as well. Maybe you want to explore a little bit more about what you discovered there.
Yeah, I always recommend my students to be their own experiment. It's the only way. And remember, I mean, feel the chi, see the chi is really easy. I mean, practicing Qin and Qigong is a way to like recognize and apply your change capacity. So if you are your own experiment, you can realize that. And just remember, if you are tired, if you feel uncomfortable, if you feel pain, it's because you have done the hardest part and
Right.
you just have to finish it.
So you also explained to me, Setlali, that you experienced your chi field. Maybe you can explore that part of your learning and of your experiment a little bit.
Yeah, after I practice the whole month, eight hours for 24 days, I went to downtown and I took a subway. So I sat down, closed my eyes, I don't care about people, and I decide to gather chi. Universe mentally, universe chi feel, universe chi feel, like 45 minutes, more or less. And when I listened that I arrived to my destiny, I stood up, and when I get out from the train, I felt something was coming with me. And I start to walk, and I turned to the right. I didn't see anything. Turned to the left. I didn't see anything, but something was with me. And I was walking and walking with an amazing sensation. And I was feeling like a peacock, like the bird.
Peacock, yes, yes.
It was so amazing. I was walking and feeling my chi feel. And after like 3 minutes, the sensation disappeared. And I said, don't go away, don't go away. It was so good. But yeah, so now I tell my students, it's so easy to feel the chi in your hands, but also to feel your chi feel or see the chi feel in your chi feel in the mirror or others' chi feel. It's so easy. So that information can get into the framework and it helps you to see and to understand that there are something else.
Right, right. That's a beautiful, beautiful experience that you had there. And it all happened in the subway. So just imagine how easy it must be back home when you're doing it and you have a quiet environment compared to the subway, right?
Right.
Now, I want to, before we finish the conversation, Setlali, you've shown how powerful it is to practice 8 hours a day, 24 days in a row, like they used to do in the Raksha Center. Now, you also said that it must have been even more powerful in the Rakshak Center because there were thousands of people doing it. So, we can only encourage people to do this practice if they have, a serious challenge in their health or in their life and they do it at home because you've shown that it's possible. Or you can, of course, also, go to China into one of the centers that are there these days. The Xi'an Center comes to mind. We have got a podcast about the Xi'an Center for those of you who are interested, or any of the healing retreats that our teachers organize. So you can do it by yourself, but you don't have to. You can obviously get the support and be part of a group when you do the practice. The important thing is that you get going and that you make a decision for your life that you're going to tackle whatever needs to be done and do whatever needs to be done.
Yeah, exactly, Dorsen. You know what? It's because at the beginning, I didn't receive the information that you can connect with the chi field. So that's why I was thinking that I was naive and innocent because I didn't get the whole information. Now we tell the students that we connect with teacher Pang Chi field and we connect with the Xi'an Center or with the other teachers in China, Chi field. And it's easier because you can feel how the chi field, the big chi field, supports you in your practice.
Right.
I did it in a different way because I was learning. But now that I teach my students, I say, let's connect. Actually, when you start your practice and you start the meditation, the Su Chan Fa, you connect. You always connect your chi field with teacher Pang chi field and Chinese chi fields and everything. And that helps you. So
Yes.
even if you are now in your apartment by yourself, you can connect and you can feel the support of the chi field.
Right.
And of course, it's better if you go to with a group and we practice together, right? That's why a lot of Tenen Qigong instructors, we do free practice together every day. So you can support your students. But yeah, you are right.
Now, just to make a note here, because there's a difference. We just described the power of doing 8 hours a day, 24 days in a row. Now, the free practice is great, but it's like a 1 hour exercise, standalone. So if you really have something serious going on, you need to do more. You can't just do a practice once a week or something. That's all wonderful and it's great and it supports you. But if you've got a serious issue, you need to get serious work done here.
Yeah, and I forgot to say it. At the beginning, it's hard because the chi is getting into your body and is opening and creating reactions. But then with the days, you will enjoy and it will be more amazing and easy, and you will feel the chi and your mind will get into, because when you feel the chi, your mind is not out.
Right.
It's the chi and your mind get together. And it's really easy when you practice more hours. So at the beginning, it's a little bit different and difficult, but then if you keep doing, the results will be amazing. You will feel really, really happy, really healthy, release all the things that you have to release and take care of yourself. Yeah, it's a great experience. You have to do it.
And I think you're a good proof because we can see you smiling and laughing and full of energy and very different than what you described initially, where you started before you actually started to practice Chineng Qigong. So congratulations to you as well for the choices you've made there. And congratulations for the contribution you've been since then through your research and through supporting other people. And for the listeners out there, after Tzitlali, you did the experiment on yourself. You started to do a lot of research with other people. You went into the schools, you had children practice Qigong. You noticed what the differences are, what the results are. You worked with plants. You even went down into the ocean to work with corals and see whether there's any change there. So for all the listeners out there, we've got a very interesting video on our YouTube channel that you might want to visit if you're interested in the research that Tzitlali did afterwards, where you can find out more about the results and the work that she has done from there on. Tzitlali, you are teaching Chineng Qigong in Mexico, are you?
Yes, I'm teaching children, teenagers, and adults. And as you mentioned, at the same time, I'm doing scientific research protocols.
Okay, wonderful. And your groups, are they locally? Are they in Mexico, or do you work on Zoom with international groups as well?
Yeah, now everything is online. So it's easier because the students can get from different parts of the world. Yeah, so now online workshops.
Perfect. So if anybody wants to get a first-hand experience of the woman you are and the work that you are doing, they're free to contact you. We've got your details in the show notes. Huh?
Yes, thank you, Torsten. Yes,
Okay,
they
well,
can
thank you
contact
very
me.
much for that, Citlali.
Thanks to you, dear Torsten, for all this work that you have done in order to spread Zen and Qigong. We need more people like you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Citlali.
We trust you enjoyed this conversation, and we invite you to subscribe to our podcast so we can stay in touch and notify you of future episodes. We will end today's episode with the 8 verses meditation performed by Qin and Qigong teacher Katrin Hendricks. Enjoy.
Ding
To get your free ebook on the 8 verses meditation, please check the show notes below.